Welcome back to another episode of Consciously Clueless. I'm your host, Carly, and I'll be your guide on this journey from consciousness to cluelessness and back around again. Thanks for joining me on another Sunday solo episode. Whether it's Sunday night and you're gearing up for the week, it's Monday morning and you're on your way to work, or whatever day this podcast has found you, I'm really glad you're here. At the beginning of every solo episode, I've been reading a review of the week or a review from a yoga class, but I am out of reviews from Apple Podcasts. So if you listen to this podcast and you enjoy it, go leave me a quick review so I can read more reviews on air. So for tonight's episode, I wanted to talk about this idea of lying to ourselves. And I know automatically the word lie can make a lot of us recoil and think, well, I'm not a liar, but hear me out. So I've been noticing lately, especially because I haven't been feeling good, those little lies we tell ourselves. Or you might notice, it's always easier to notice things in other people before we notice them in ourselves, right? So you might notice people in your life doing this. But there's those moments where you go, oh, I'll do that later. I will wash the dishes. Or I'll start eating better tomorrow. Or I'm going to work out next week. Or I'll finish that. Whatever. I'm sure you can come up with a bunch of your own examples. And it might seem like a little thing, but when you say those things, full well knowing that your intention is not to finish them, your vibration suffers. Okay, the word vibration might have made some of you roll your eyes. It's getting woo-woo, but stick with me. When you say something like, I'll finish that later, and it's not true, like you know it's true. You say it and inside, even if you're not consciously thinking it, you know that you're not going to do it. Or whatever the thing is. Something you commit to, something you say to a partner or a friend, but you know it's not true. Those things add up. And if you believe in any sort of like manifesting or creating your own future, you can't do that when you are constantly lying to yourself. Because if you're lying to yourself, the universe is like, well, you don't even trust yourself enough. You don't trust yourself to get these things done. And it's really easy to get caught in that I'll do it tomorrow kind of mentality. Especially when it comes to our own health, it seems like it's really easy to do that. I'll do better tomorrow. I will eat a salad for lunch tomorrow instead of eating out. I will run a marathon at the end of the month. Whatever it is, it seems really easy to do those things with health. But when you say them and you don't mean them, they're just empty words. And the more and more you do that, the less you trust yourself. Because you've gotten used to knowing that you don't really mean what you say. And if you don't mean what you say, you're not putting anything you want into action. You're not taking intentional action because you're stuck in this loop of saying, I'll do it tomorrow, and putting it off and putting it off. And that is a really easy pattern to fall into. But being in that pattern is kind of scary because there's always a moment where you can think, tomorrow. And not to be dark, but sometimes tomorrow doesn't come for people. And sometimes those moments pass or whatever it is. And you don't want that to happen, having said all these things that you will have done. And sometimes we say things like, yeah, I'm taking a break from running this week. For example, I'm currently sick. This is my real world example. I'm sick right now. And as hard it is for me to be patient and allow my body to heal. And even though I really badly want to just get up and run, I know that I shouldn't. So I actually am saying I'm going to try and run next week, hoping that that comes true. There's a difference. And I think we all know the difference when we say things that we mean or things that we don't. And there's a difference between coming up with a plan. And for example, if you're working with a health coach, like if you were working with me and we came up for a plan and we said, you're going to do this week, and then you're going to do that next week, and then this the following week, so on and so forth. That's different. But it's those moments where you just say these empty words. I think that can happen a lot in relationships or friendships as well. And that's also really dangerous because you're not putting intentional thought into that relationship. And whatever you put out, you get back. I'm going to say that again. Whatever you put out, you get back. So if I am saying, yeah, I'll do that tomorrow, but those words aren't really true, you're probably not going to do it. The universe is like, yeah, she doesn't really care. She's just saying things, but she's not doing anything. Or if I'm saying that to a partner, if I'm saying something and I don't really mean it, then that's exactly the type of energy I'm going to get back. And it's just reciprocal and kind of a downward spiral. We have to be really intentional with our words and with the goals we set for ourselves, and take that intentional action. Because if you just keep saying, I'll do it tomorrow, you are literally never going to do it. Or it's going to take you way longer than just tomorrow. And I'm guessing for anyone listening to this who has goals and dreams and desires, you want it quicker than years and years and years from now. But we don't get that. Those things don't just show up from us continuing to put it off. And look, I know I say this a lot, but I want to reiterate, I'm not saying this as some sort of expert. We all fall into this. I know I've done that. But I've started to pay attention more. If I commit to something, if I set a goal for myself, if I say something to someone else, I don't want it to be empty words, because that just means I'm going to get empty words and empty promises and unfulfilled desires back at me if that's what I'm putting out. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants empty promises and unfulfilled desires. That sounds terrible. But we'll put it out into the world and wonder why that's all we get. But you can't wonder why that's all you're getting if that's what you're putting out there. And it's not to say that you can't mess up. It's not to say that you can't have, let's say, a weekly plan for eating better. And one day you don't stick to your plan and you're feeling really bad. Then we get back into that, well, it's kind of like a waste. The whole week was a waste. I'll just start again tomorrow. Maybe there is no start again. Maybe there just is this continuation. That was just a moment. You ate a whole tub of vegan ice cream. Maybe that's just me. And then you move on. Now, if that is you every day, that is something to work on. But my point is, this idea of not lying to ourselves, it doesn't mean that we can't screw up or we can't take a break or we can't relax. It just means no more empty promises, and stop lying to ourselves. Stop lying to ourselves. We say so many things to ourselves and in our own life that we would never say to a friend. We would never say to a family member. We would never say to a partner or a coworker or whatever. We lie to ourselves all the time about the things we're going to accomplish or we're going to do, and then we don't do it, and then we wonder why it's not happening. So I want you to maybe think for the next few days, what are you lying to yourself about? What are you just outright lying to yourself about? What do you keep saying you're going to do, but you haven't taken any intentional action towards? And it's okay. Don't feel ashamed. But Call awareness to that. What are you lying to yourself about? And then when you start to notice, once you attune your awareness to this, you'll start to notice it more and more. Once you notice those moments where you say something and you're like, gosh, I'm totally lying to myself right now, what can you do to counteract it? What can you do to not lie to yourself anymore and take some sort of intentional action towards that thing, towards that goal, towards that desire, towards that person, whatever it is? You deserve so much more than lying to yourself. And when you start to notice this and when you start to move through it and change it a little bit, things are going to fall into place more than you can ever imagine. Thanks for listening to another episode of Consciously Clueless. If you're enjoying this podcast, hit subscribe wherever you're listening. And like I said in the beginning, I would so appreciate it if you could go over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. I know a lot of you are listening and haven't left a review yet, and that can be awkward, and that's okay, but even just a few words about why you keep coming back and listening would really help me out, and it spreads through the community and shows more people why they should listen, and that is amazing. And one last thing, if you haven't yet, head over to patreon.com/consciouslycarly and check out all the things I'm offering on Patreon. I bet there's something there that you would like. Until next time.